When we talk about women-focused initiatives, we need to ask some foundational questions. To begin with, what are the issues that are impacting women's lives? These are, is it education, healthcare, economic empowerment, leadership opportunities? These issues are all there. What are the most pressing issues? What are the hindrances towards women getting equal access to opportunities? And what are the complexities of gender disparity and the societal, cultural, and systemic challenges that continue to persist? And in the end, what role can advocacy, innovation, and technology play when it comes to empowering women? So to touch upon these aspects, we have our panelists for today, Dr. Arushi Kehar, the lead of CSR initiatives at Sirona Hygiene, Ms. Deepa Menon, Senior Vice President, Communications and CSR at PVR Limited. She's also the founder and head of PVR Nest. Dr. Lopamudra Priyadarshini, AVP with Hindalco Industries, Aditya Birla Group, and she's the head of Community Relations and Sustainability in Odisha. We have Ms. Manjeera Sharma, the head of communication and CSR at Roche Diagnostics for India and neighboring markets. Dr. Neelam Gupta, President and CEO, Aro Foundation, and Ms. Navneet Kaur, CEO and co-founder of Femtech India. So I'd like to welcome each one of you. And the session is being moderated by Mr. Abhishek Jha, Senior Journalist at CNN News 18. So welcome, Abhishek. I'll be with you in the panel, and please take it ahead from here.
Shweta,
yes,
sorry to interrupt. I just like to inform that Navneet could not join us because she's not keeping.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
That's okay. So thank you, Ruchika, and thank you, Shweta, for having me on this panel as a moderator. This is an esteemed panelist. Many people I could see, Dr. Arushi Kehar, and so like Shweta was giving us cue before we could start our discussion that there has been several verticals where we can talk about discrimination and why the empowerment or the areas where women needs to be more well represented. Starting from education, I would like to start that there are certain biases in our society. To start with that, okay, there are particular segments of education or particular streams of education that would fit for a girl's education, or for higher studies also. So to start with, because that actually defines and decides the future direction and the course of economic income that these girls would eventually get. So to start the discussion, I would like to ask Dr. Arushi Sirona, if you could tell us something like what goes in the mind of parents. I mean, I know from a reference point of 20 years ago when we used to be in college with our siblings, there was clearly this much of bias that there are particular streams that are good for a girl. But you have been working on the grounds. Has there been any update on that all the subjects are open or should be open for a girl, or there's still some biasness or some hesitation for a particular stream?
So basically, the bias still continues, but the gap is minimizing because now there's a lot of access to internet and information. And social development organizations have become really active when it comes to women empowerment. There are many organizations that have actually started to come forward and talk about education and talk about basic skilling of these women towards empowerment. But as long as employability is concerned, as long as the places where women should work, I feel urban areas, the gap is filling to some extent, but rural areas, the gap still exists. Also, women till date, in many areas in the country, they're not allowed to step out of the house to work. And that is in urban and rural both. In general, I think women still are asked to, comply to gender roles. And are asked to, be at home, take care of the home, be a homemaker, and not step out and actually be someone who could provide for the family. So yeah, but the good thing is that the gap is filling. I think the panel is an exemplary example of how the gap is filling. Where all
Of course.
top notch experts from the industry are there. So yeah.
Sure. Sure. So I would take our focus and question to Dr. Neelam Gupta from RO Foundation. So, Madam, when we talk about this discrimination, Dr. Arushi was pointing towards urban and rural divide, that there is hardly any difference when it comes to gender discrimination or the kind of empowerment women should have. It's irrespective of their background or their economical stature. So, how do you deal with it? Like, even now, I mean, we are in 2023, when you go out and try to, do something for their community, for that or particular segment of girls, or women education, or women hygiene and sanitation. Some of us are working in that direction. What are the kind of challenges that you face, and how do you deal with that?
Thank you so much for inviting me here on this panel, and much grateful. As my previous co-panelist has suggested, there are still challenges. The gender discrimination is, the gaps are decreasing, but still there is a lot of ground to be covered. And urban-rural divide has always existed, and it still exists. The basic problem which we face is, as far as education is concerned and girls' education is concerned, is of access to education. For one, during our days of, education for all in the early 2000s, where we built schools for all, there is one school every kilometer for the primary education, and most of the girls are going to primary schools. There is 100% enrollment in primary schools. But when you come to middle classes and higher classes, the problem is of access to schools. There is a school within 10 kilometers, sometimes 5 to 10 kilometers is the average distance. So when the school is far away from the village, normally girls are not going, or they are not allowed to go sometimes. There is a safety issue also of the girls going from one village to another village. There is a transport problem, because most of the village schools do not have transport facilities. They are government schools and people have to reach on their own. So that becomes a big barrier as far as higher education is concerned. And similarly, as we go on going to higher levels of education, when the girls have to go to college, the colleges are still farther away. There are sometimes in districts, and the colleges generally are not able to cater to all the girl students, so they drop out. We'll see the maximum dropouts happening in the 9th standard. And then, of course, in the 11th, higher schools, etc. So that is one of the biggest challenges of education. And this leads to lesser engagement and lesser participation of girls in economy, lesser participation of girls in jobs, and in varied fields, where they can break stereotypes, where they can, defy the gender roles and go on taking better roles in economy and better roles in various sectors of economy. So that becomes, I feel, one of the biggest barriers for girls' education. We are trying to change the mindsets of people. Sometimes we have to ply buses for the girls, and there has also been distribution of bicycles to the girls, so that they can reach the schools. At least the education is accessible to them. The whole idea is to, take them to schools, basically. And more and more parents are also becoming aware that education is very, very important, and somehow they have to send their girls to school. But that there is a lot to be done to bridge this gap. Not many parents can afford to send them far away. The means of transport and money both become an issue, and poverty is another factor prevalent in our country. So these are the factors which keep girls away from education, and we have not been able to achieve gender equality. For one,
So,
this is one of the major points. I think I leave it there for other panelists to.
I like to bring in Dr. Lupa Mudra. She's with Hindalco, and she's working as head of community relations and sustainability. I think where Dr. Neelam Gupta was saying that there is, pretty good level of awareness that education should be there. But our intention is that the girls should reach or their education should reach out to a level where they can become employable, or they can be at least self-reliant or self-sufficient in terms of monetary or financial independence. So while we know that there have, even in village setup, people are sending us for the primary education, but what about higher education? Why do they drop out? Now, as Ms. Gupta was also saying, that there are buses which are flying, cycles are being provided. Uh, no, so like, what else do we need to do to ensure that girls also continue their study beyond 12th, at least 12th, and beyond 12th for higher studies, so that their employability level or their skill enhancement is to that extent where industry can have them as on their payrolls.
Yeah, Abhishek, thank you so much. And now, what Dr. Arushi and Dr. Nilam had said, that we have a long way to go, and the urban and rural setups are totally different. Now, why do they drop out? There are a million reasons to it. The society that we live in rural belt is totally different than, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities that have different challenges, why they drop out, and what should make them go to school again. So Hindalco is constantly working on girl child education. There's one of the prime focus. What my experience would talk about in all the 3 tier cities and in the tribal pockets of Kalahandi, Rayagada, Odisha, and Chhattisgarh, you talk about, every city has their own challenges. The major challenges remains that the awareness in the family, that what the child, that the girl should, because there are a lot of other menace in this community, that early child marriage, that's a big problem. And that's not the only problem of a rural belt, that's also problem of the slums of Delhi. I will reiterate one incident which shocked me back in Delhi. I'll not name the school, where the girl of class 8th or 9th had gone into the washroom, and she didn't knew that she is pregnant, and she was she was married to a very old man, and a fetus was lying, and friends came. So that not only happens in the urban setup, but in rural setup it is more organized crime. It means
Madam, about that incident that you talked, was it related to the marriage, or
Yes, because this is again society, then the teachers, the social workers go to the village and say that your child should go back to school, and the child has gone back to school, but then she had that issue. When I talk about rural belt of India, when the social worker or when the CSR worker goes to the community, this is one of the reasons, Abhishek, I'm trying to mention, and which is, for me, it is a big problem of India. Still today, it is a big problem of India, of that strata, that the girl child is not, even though they want, they cannot go. And otherwise, in rural belt, they are the laborers. They earn more from labor, 325 rupees or 380 rupees per day. Then they are going to doing +2, making a skill. And even if they are working for, and they have to go through a lot of challenges, we know how to face it, but they don't know how to face it. And they are earning 4,000, 5,000, running to a cities, 2 tier, 3 tier cities from it is a social problem. And, in every strata of society, we really need to work on this particular thing, how it can be safer for a girl child to go. This safety, as the Arushi has mentioned, was a big challenge. Even we talk like that, and I was just, prior to this conference, I was in one more meeting, and we were discussing how there are AI interventions that helps the girls to go into a place and mark it, whether it is a safer place to go or not. So the point, coming back again to your original question of why they are dropping out, there are a million reasons why they are dropping out, but there are a few of the reasons that we can look at. Is one, the awareness among parents, that the girl child should go, and because it is the societal terms that they have to get married, and they have to, it's because of their safety.
Of course.
The marriage is all because
So,
they want to be safe. So somewhere that safety plays a very important role why they drop out and do early marriage. And I think, that is a major challenge why they drop out. No matter whatever we do, digital education, bring them, give them whatever, this is going to be a long-term challenge for India for girl child education.
of course, now I think our colleague Shweta Singh is also trying to ask some questions to the panelists.
No, it was actually I would just like to extend this question. We were focusing on education, but what I wanted to know from the other panelists that have also joined here, Deepa ji and Manjira ji, that education is definitely one issue and it has been much talked about. Even in urban areas, even in the most, say, elite cities, even in the elite classes, women do not have access to equal opportunities. So what, in your opinion, what are the hindrances, basically, that are stopping the women from getting access to those opportunities, even the most, probably the educated women in cities? So could you give your perspective on that? I'd ask Manjira ji to first give her perspective, and then we can come to Deepa ji.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And this is, I think we are all saying the same things. What we will see holding back in education will spill over to other opportunities. So first of all, I'm simply going to start by saying, Abhishek ji, you have a huge responsibility. You are CNN, the might which, a channel like yours will have to not just showcase, the dismal things happening in the rural areas, but also the success stories, because that is the, inspiration which we need others to take. We are not moving fast enough. Shweta, to your point, absolutely, urban areas, in fact, many APAC nations. So recently, we at the regional level conducted a survey. This was purely limited to women's experience with healthcare and access to healthcare. And the results were startling, be it in oncology, be it in cardiac care, where we saw that 1 in 3 women, 1 in 5 women, different therapy areas, chronic, acute, were just said that they did not voluntarily access healthcare, or they had a delayed access to healthcare. Most important reason being was family and caregiver responsibilities. Other reasons which they cited was the place was too far away. In the case of fertility and women's health issues, people cited societal stigma, and also so cervical cancer is a burning issue. I'm alluding to that. So I think these are the sort of things that, and these are urban women, and these are women from Malaysia, India. So it's not unique to India alone. Of course, when you go to Indonesia, India, Pakistan, the numbers jump up drastically. 72% and upwards are saying this, but it remains everywhere. So I think that when we talk about equality, let's first talk of equity, which means that we've been held back. So some sort of affirmative action, everyone, when they start running in the track fields, the inner circle people and the outer circle people, the circle size is different. So I think that is something which needs to be done now, because there is no denying that the gap exists, and there are many reasons for the gap. How do we overcome that gap? Is by taking drastic measures and special measures, because that's the only one we'll be able to overcome that.
Ms. Deepa Menon, could you please add your view to this?
No, thank you. I think, all the panelists are really making their very, very specific experience point of view. And here also, I'd just really like to talk about that this is a very interesting cross-section of gender equality spectrum, where we are all observing actually that women are striving to educate themselves, especially in STEM. Let me just look into that. STEM per se is actually also becoming that more and more women are working tirelessly to join workforce so that they can earn a sustainable living and be financially independent. But the problem arises when we talk about the conversion rate to the workforces. That's where actually the gender opportunity gap is completely visible. Looking at, any substantial increase, only 25% of women in India who are actually willing to work are actually amounting to be part of the workforce over the period. I'm just trying to make a point that women are also outnumbering men in the enrollment in STEM and science courses. However, only 14% of the women are still in workforce. Why so? So I think somewhere down the line, globally, I think the problem of women inclusion for education, skilling, and employment stems from the inadequate and absence of gender conscious budget, which is allocated by countries. I'm not too sure about what's India's allocated budget, but I'm very sure that that's where actually we still need to work, get proper budget, get resources for women, get opportunities so that the narrower skill opportunity is actually converted back into a proper workforce.
So exactly, this is where I was trying to come, and I would go back to Dr. Lopamudra. So I think when we talk about women's safety issues, that actually hinders their education stream to a higher level. The same theory or same kind of biases also applies when women have to go and work in the office, especially if they work in the manufacturing sector that works 24/7 in 3 shifts. Clearly, there are well-defined shifts that a woman can do, or their family members would not like her to continue with their job. So what kind of adjustments does our industrial body, major body like yours, make to ensure that women workforce remain there and sustain the kind of pressure and the challenges that will be coming to them from their male colleagues?
See, Abhishek, it's a very, very apt question because as Deepa said, it's a global challenge. It's not a challenge that how many women, or maybe, let us go back to other scenario where most of the women are going and skilling. And, we at Hindalco, we say that by 2030, 50% of our shop floor will be manned by women, in the shop floor, and 50% women will be in our workforce. Where does the problem lies? Actually problem lies, no matter how much we say ki, diversity in every company, you say they want to hire women senior leadership or women, but why do they fail? I have all the question, and we all know why do they fail, why they cannot. One is the family. Globally this is because I traveled across, I worked, and nationally, internationally, the challenge is women is expected to do everything. Okay, now as you said, ki, which shift? I have to manage my shift. If I have to do a night shift, I have to manage my house. I have to make everything available so that I can do the night shift. So that it's again coming back again. My question always is, this is the society that we are living in. Somewhere physically, we really need to change the thought process that we have and what we are imparting to our children as well. So many of my friends abroad is not married, of my age, because they just do not want to take that burden of running the family, doing everything and doing 3 times the work the man does, and then again have to work. So they say, no, I choose to be free, and I can buy my own house, I can work. So one reason is this societal pressure that the women do have. The other thing that happens, as you said, your husband says ki, what we are trying to work out in Hindalco is ensuring that if a woman is working with us, if the man is also in somewhere pertaining to that skill, bringing him to this, so actually they understand it. And giving the third thing is giving a woman a choice to do. It is equity, as we were talking about, choice to do whether I want to do this shift or not. No, I don't want to do this. I will pick up something else to do, but my contribution would be there. And this is the time flexibility that is there that I can contribute. So helping more and women to be in the workforce, to give their productive input to the development of the, and for the development of the, and growth of the organization, basically.
So like, does your organization allow the financial constraint to, like, they freely spend money to ensure that women workforce are well cared? If the night shift is there, then there has to be cab services with the security guards. Then probably the hygiene issues have to be well maintained. So does organizations like yours have any hesitancy in spending too much of money to keep a larger women workforce? This is what we wanted to
Yeah, see, a lot of companies nowadays, the major conglomerates and very well-to-do MNCs are spending a lot of money to keep the women workforce. Companies are trying from there. See, again, I reiterate, it should be in spirit. Only spending doesn't help. It is the mindset of the entire top-down system. The pyramid has to have that mindset to keep that. You may hire me and keep me in that place, but you do not know how to treat me, or you think that DEI ke liye hire kar liya. That doesn't help, because he spends a lot of money, but the people in that entire system doesn't know what it means. Only,
of course, And I think a lot of that onus goes to people like us or like male colleagues and male partner in their home also. So my question will be with Dr. Neelam Gupta. Madam, you have been working for a very long time in this industry. My question will be little, having some perspective in the last 2 decades and until now. Has there been any change in the perspective of a male, the family views women working and, the kind of constraints that we were talking about, the shifts, the security, safety, आप कैसे जाओगी, कितने बजे आओगी, like everybody is well so concerned when the women is out, but nobody cares when the man is out. So in the last 20 years or so, have you seen any shift? Not necessarily because of the monetary compulsion, but overall mindset that has changed. Okay, like it's not necessarily that she's earning enough, then she can go out in the odd shifts, but it is her right to work, or maybe her aspirations to work, and she should be allowed to work. She should have a right to work, in fact, in all the shifts and where the company she wants to work.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek. I think there has been a major shift in the mindset. In the past 20 years, I'm seeing, like I'll give you an example. We've been working in the programs where we have to skill rural youth, which includes also women. So initially, when we started, say, way back in 2005-06, women were not coming out. Girls were not coming out to go to other cities to work. And there was a lot of persuasion required. Not even 10% of the target was fulfilled due to various reasons, all these societal and cultural gender stereotypes which we have in our systems, and the backwardness of villages and communities which especially live in the interiors of the country. It was a taboo to go out and work in the city for a single girl. But now slowly things have changed. More and more girls are coming out. We are even able to get to our 50% target of, training and placing women in job. So has been a major shift. People are changing, their mindsets are changing, and also we have been working on the mindset. See, I'll give you an example. This is about 3-4 years back. We had been training, taking a batch for training in Uttar Pradesh, very near Greater Noida. And there were girls in the village who wanted to come out and get themselves equipped for a job, get themselves trained for a job. But families were so backward, they would not allow them to come out for a training, residential training, and then work in the cities. A lot of persuasion was required. So my team had been working in the field, and we found a girl who was called Nirasha by her parents. That was such a moving point, because she was a third child. So the parents were so insensitive to call her Nirasha. What more can gender discrimination stoop down to? And she was a bright girl. So we fought for her. Basically, she wanted to come out, and her brother's parents, they were dead against her coming out of the house and working. But somehow family was powered, BPL family, very little means, meager means to sustain. So we could bring her out. She was trained in 3 months and then put on a job in Spencer's, where she was working as a counter sales girl. And imagine, within 1 year, she started working as a team leader. She had 10 girls under her. And now she became a role model in her village. So after that, all the girls from the village moved out. They said, we want to get this training, we want to do a job. So that is where, the trigger is. They have
I think yes. The sensitization has to start from the family itself. At least the parents should be unbiased.
And one success story leads to many others. When they know this girl has come out, this girl has got something in life, there is
Yes. And now I will go back to Dr. Arushi Sirona. She's been from Sirona. She's been waiting for a long time now. But Arushi, what kind of interventions have you been able to do to achieve that? In case of women workforce, that they do get proper care in their respective workplaces, or what kind of interventions have you been able to make to achieve those equal space for women in workplaces?
So at Sirona, we work, we have products centered around menstrual health and intimate hygiene, which is an important part when it comes to workforce. Products like these and, making women aware about these topics, it just gives them more access and more comfort while they step out of the house, because menstrual health and in general periods is not something that is spoken about, and it's not about rural India, but very much in urban families, where people do not want to talk about it, and women are it is expected out of them, and that if they're on their period or if they are menstruating, they will not step out of the house, and it also kind of gives them that sense of fear when they step out. So having that sort of an enabling environment for women, wherein these things can be spoken about, the issues that they go through while they're on their period, or in general, because women go through a lot of issues from PCOS to endometriosis to having fibroids, and there's so many issues. So if workplaces will just start taking these initiatives where we start talking about it, that is when such an enabling environment for women workforce will come into being. Some very important
First, we had a budget of
initiatives
25 lakh. Twice, yeah.
I think
So
someone's
someone's
audio is on.
voice is leaking through. So
we increased the
John is
budget to
speaking.
50 lakh.
Tech team, please, could you
Sure.
please mute the non-participants, tech team? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
So basically at Sirona, we have started this initiative of educating the employees, and we do inclusive sessions, inclusive advocacy sessions on menstrual health and hygiene and on sustainable menstruation, where even men involved.
and like while you were having all these sessions, do you also include men?
Yes, that's what
from
I'm
the
saying,
office?
that we have co-ed sessions. We have inclusive co-ed sessions where men also join these sessions, and they stay there throughout the session and ask their questions. Men have actually come up and asked questions like, how can I help a fellow, colleague while she's on her period? Or how can I help her with the product when she's on her period and she needs something, And very basic knowledge about what periods are in schools. Men are not taught about it. They are asked to leave the classroom. Where when the teacher is talking about the reproductive system, they are not told about it. So they are very inquisitive. They want to know more. They want to know what is going on, because to them they are just told कि अच्छा ये औरतों का problem है. So now especially the younger men.
So I think that has to come, and I think a lot of at least now everybody is having a smartphone in their hand. So in the last 10 years, the technology has reached to everybody, and if somebody has a real interest or inquisitiveness, he can very well go Google and check everything out. My question to become in would be about the same thing, the technological innovation that we are seeing impacting our everyday life. So has the technology, the new technology in every sphere of our life, has it made it more convenient for women to sustain their work, and or has it made it more challenging for them because of the new technological innovation that is coming every day? So how do you see role of technology in women workforce?
Absolutely. I think, I think we're all trying to make a very important point, but I'll still stick to the robust tools of a very gender conscious budget, which is required by almost all the organizations, like you mentioned. And when I was hearing about like each organization have to really work on senior leadership in women to come on board to make sure that she is really taking part of the larger workforce, which is now transiting from a labor to come on her board. So I think there's a lot of steps which are required at the corporate level, at the organizational level. But it's interesting that in India's context, I'm just sharing with you, of course, I'd like to talk a little bit about PVR Nest. But before that, some of the government initiatives, which is Mahila E-Hut, which is a wonderful online women providing platform to products and services, which is a foundation of financial independence, where technology has been the real provider, and here women and women's entire display of products and services are part of it. Let's look at the scheme like the Kiran scheme by the Department of Science and Technology, which is also an amazing inclusive step towards skilling women, not only in STEM, but also not pigeonholing her into academics, but actually building her personality, building her expertise, building her to be part of the larger workforce, take the leadership role, and then also be part of the scientific temper, which pushes her to take administrative opportunities and give opportunities furthermore to more women. We want to share a very brief context about PVRNIST. Since the beginning, we have been working on the risk in communities for providing them safety and protection. And while we started safety and protection, we were committed in enabling women growth opportunities through our pink centers, which became the key issues which actually women face in underprivileged community is the absence of safe sanitation centers, which affected their productivity. And as rightly mentioned by Arushi, Dr. Arushi, that women certainly take leaves during period. They have several issues while they are having periods during the work times, and hence their income, of course, get affected. Through these pink toilets, what we have achieved is safer and better spaces, and hence 1 million women having access to these safe sanitation services, which we run with MCD. What we have understood that during all of this, and while our social impact assessment, which we conducted with Delhi University students, we found that 100% of the women who are closer to our centers are amplifying their productivity and work attendance. So just very basic thing which we did by budgeting them, by making sure these centers are running productively, safe and higher standards, as well as these women who are running them are 100% women who get the employment opportunity and further upskilling, have made sure that these labor force turn around to be a workforce for us. And similarly, our expansion from paying centers with the government have now moved to Garima Greh, which is a multi-utility public health infrastructure, which is a set to almost 10 pink toilets, which we run together for not only safe sanitation interventions in marginalized communities, but an opportunity to bring technology, women empowerment center, reading program, weekly legal sessions for the community members, and making sure that the women get an opportunity to claim public spaces more. And so hence, I think it's important that coming back, the tools to make sure that we're constantly working on good women budget, good gender-oriented budget is extremely important for their entrepreneurship as well as for their financial independence. Of course, tools like technology will always enhance.
Of course, so like with that discussion, I'll move forward with Manjeera Sharma ji, and my question will be: have you had this budget or gender sensitized budget allocation in your company, and what was the reaction of the bosses? Bosses, I mean, those who literally decide the finances, where should it go and how much should it go, and what profit, what investment will it get? So, I mean, if one of you could give us a real sense that when the decisions of having more women workforce goes to finance department, do they scorn or like what was the reaction? Because ultimately they have to make money, like they don't think about this big ideals and all. So how do you deal with that, or what has been your experience regarding that?
Right. So any company, I think Dr. Lopamutra also mentioned previously that all MNCs in large listed Indian companies, conglomerates, they are focusing on D&I. There are various reasons for that, because when you are going to do fundraising, there's a fundamental business sense also, business to make your business sustainable, to comply with the and ESG regulations also. There is a pillar on D&I. Okay, D&I. So we understand that it makes business sense. To your point about, is the management seeing, bang for the buck? Are they seeing resistance to allocating budgets? Not really. I haven't seen the resistance coming from there. The resistance, as all of us are hearing, is because sometimes the circumstances on the shop floor, late shift, the woman could be 40 kilometers away. Even if you've given a bus, if the shift ends at 2 a.m., woman may not choose to. So some of the challenges we are seeing. At Roche Diagnostics, we have a footprint across 450 centers, cities, across India, the smallest places you can imagine. Tirumallur. Now, and there is our staff, our biggest teams in the company are the service engineers who go to solve if the machine in the laboratory has stopped working. They are the busiest people. They continue to work through COVID. Now, that is a team which, in all honesty, for the last 2.5 years, we've been seeing it has got very little diversity, probably less than 3% women. So that's a team where, because the rest of the organization has good rep. Now, that's a team which we have been trying to, as a leadership team, trying to see what can we do. And we have not really been able to make much success. And let me tell you, it's not on account of budgets, or we've actually said that we give special allowance to fresh engineers coming out, women engineers coming out of Kolhapur, Nanded, etc. And still we are seeing resistance. So it's often money may not be the quick fix.
Yeah, I just want to make one point here. You're absolutely right, Manjira, about this, because I think too many circumstances are actually, in fact, we did try to actually bring our number of, cinema industry, which faces also with respect to the timings of operations. And I'm just specifically giving you one specific segment of managers. We wanted pink cinemas, and like we started pink centers at public spaces, we wanted pink cinemas, and we started this entire activation. And we still realize that, while our shift gets over, which is right at 12 in the night, it's the men force which we have to kind of, depend on. Even though there is a women manager, which is still leading that entire premise, but you still need a men's force. And I think it's not about, the premise of various, support mechanism which the organization is set up for, but I think it's just also very situational and very regulated also for them to take a decision on. Yeah.
Sure, and I think you all made a very decent and most your perspective, because of your first-hand experience working every day. It was really wonderful to have you all, Manjari Sharma ji, Dr. Lupamudra, Dr. Neelam Gupta, and Dr. Arushi and Deepa Banerjee, and know the reasons what holds them back, and the solutions that can move them forward. And that, I think, a lot of solution depends on the social conditioning and biasness that we need to deal with. Because unless that is there, no matter how many cabs you provide or how many security forces we provide, the shifts will always remain an issue that a certain number of shifts or certain number of women will not be able to work. So thank you all for joining us and enriching us with your experiences. I will conclude this session right here, and then I will go back to my colleague Shweta Singh for more of this.
Thank you, Abhishek, for moderating the session, and thank you to all our participants for joining. I know one small session is not enough to discuss the multifaceted problems that women face, but I'm sure we at least touched upon some of them. Thanks for